Hi, everyone. As we close out this year, I wanted to share a big personal announcement with you all. My name is Jieun. I am reclaiming my name. I will no longer be going by the name Chi. Please refer to me as Jieun from this moment forward. It feels incredibly vulnerable, exposing, and liberating to be sharing this monumental life change with you guys. Honestly, I wish I could have just been Jieun in all circles, all the time, for my entire life. Over the past 2 years, as I've witnessed an exponential surge in anti-Asian racism, violence, hate crimes, and xenophobia, alongside the explosive representation of Asians and Asian Americans in mainstream media, Hollywood, and music, I've been digging deeper into my own experiences of anti-Asian racism, as well as my relationships with my Korean and Asian identities. I've also been on a longer journey, a 33-year-long journey of figuring out who I am, where I'm from, and how to exist in this world. Let's start from the beginning. On September 21st, 1988, I was born at Severance Hospital in Seoul, South Korea. The name I was given at birth was Jieun. My name was given to me by my mother, and it means wisdom and mercy. My mom named me Jieun because she wanted me to grow in wisdom and share that wisdom with others. Before my mom and I immigrated to America in 1990, my mom went to the immigration office to get all of our paperwork filled out. The person who was assigned to help my mom fill out our paperwork was the one who incorrectly transliterated my name. My name should have been spelled Chi-un Ko, but instead it was spelled Chi-un Ko. Back in the late 1980s, the English language was still quite foreign to the majority of Koreans, and while the immigration office employees did their best to help people transliterate their names, without this official way to do it, there was plenty of room for subjectivity and error. And that's how Jieun became Chi. In 1990, once we got to America, everyone I knew still called me Jieun. But my mom was still grappling with the name Chi. She wasn't completely satisfied with Chi, but she knew that she was going to have to come up with a name for me to go by at school, a name that my teachers and my classmates would call me. For the next 2 years, my mom kept searching for a better way to spell my name. I actually remember as a kid, my mom had me try out the name GHI for a while, G. But at some point during kindergarten, she changed her mind and told me that I would be going by the name Chi from now on, a name that I, at that point, had never even heard before. But I would only be called Chi at school. At home, I would still be Jieun. So you can imagine how confused I would be as a 4-year-old who just traveled across the world, moved to a different country, had to learn a new language, had to leave everything I knew behind, and I had no say in the matter, and I had to adopt a totally different name, but only in certain spaces. As a little girl, I remember hearing the name Chi, and I remember thinking, that's not my name, my name's Jieun. I remember not liking the name Chi because it wasn't my name. But it was the name that was on my teacher's roster, it was the name on all of my official documents, and it was the name that my mom was telling me to go by at school. I was only 4, so I didn't know how to make decisions for myself yet. I didn't know that I had the right to be called whatever I wanted to be called, regardless of what was on my teacher's roster. I also didn't know how to spell Jieun at that point either, so I had no choice but to go by Chi. So in 1993, when I was in kindergarten at Cardinal Forest Elementary School in Springfield, Virginia, that was when I was first referred to as Chi. At the age of 4, I had to learn how to be Chi. Growing up and even into adulthood, I was the victim of endless name-based racism, bullying, and discrimination. People would taunt me at school, calling me Chico, Chichi, Chichichichia, Chia Pet, Chunko, Chicharrones, like literally anything you can think of, they called me it. Other dumb, racist things people would say to me. Do you know your name means boy in Spanish? Oh my gosh. Is your name Chi as in Chi? Oh, like Chi as in your energy. Doesn't your name mean energy in Chinese? I have a dog named Chi Chi. Until this year, I have always introduced myself as Chi. I spell out my name for people in advance because 99% of the time they don't know what I'm saying. Jean, she, shy, Kai. To make things easier for people, I have said it's like cheese without the Z. At one point, I got so frustrated with people messing up my name that I just told people they could call me whatever they wanted. You can call me Chico, Chichi. You can even call me Bob. I literally said that to people. I hated when people asked me what my name meant. When people asked me what Chi meant, I didn't know what to tell them because Chi in Korean doesn't mean anything. I also felt obligated to give them this whole explanation of why my name had been incorrectly transliterated. Well, actually, Chi is only half of my name. Un, which is my middle name, is actually the second part of my first name. But actually, neither of those names are accurate spellings or pronunciations of my actual name. My mom didn't make things easier for me either. When I would go home and ask her what my name meant, she would always tell me, it just means you're going to make your parents proud. And so I would go to school and I would tell the kids that, and they would always laugh at me and say, "Oh my God, that's so Asian." Oh my God. I didn't realize it at the time, but all these experiences were incredibly traumatizing for me. My name was constantly being tossed around, butchered, mangled, disrespected, and mocked. And because my name and my Asian identity are inextricably linked, I also hated being Asian. The name Chi made me feel undeniably Asian, which was the last thing I wanted to be in these overwhelming white spaces that I grew up in. Growing up in Northern Virginia, being Asian felt like something to hide, to erase, to get rid of. Being Asian made me feel different from everyone else around me, and all I wanted to be was normal. I wanted to be Kelly, Lauren, Madison, Ashley, anyone but Chi. Chi felt weird, ugly, foreign. Sadly, those three things felt synonymous to me. Throughout my 31 years of living in America, anti-Asian racism has always been widely accepted and normalized. It has always felt like a universal truth that we all knew and understood. We can all be racist towards Asians. This gross, widespread acceptance of anti-Asian racism was constantly being reflected back to me as well. In movies, in TV, at my parents' businesses, at school. It felt impossible to fight against it. Because of the widespread acceptance of anti-Asian racism in America, there was no space for me to demand that people treat me and the Asian community with the dignity and respect that we deserved. If I ever called people out for being racist towards Asians, they would gaslight me, they would criticize me for being too sensitive, and they would call me an angry Asian. No Asians in the movies or TV shows I watched ever stood up against anti-Asian racism either. I rarely ever saw people who looked like me on screen, but in the few times that I did, they were one-dimensional characters that were grossly stereotyped, mocked, and humiliated. Lane and Mrs. Kim in Gilmore Girls, Agent Lee in Rush Hours 1, 2, and 3, Long Duck Dong in 16 Candles, Mr. Chow from The Hangover, Fook You and Fook Me in Austin Powers, and Mr. Miyagi in The Karate Kid. The list goes on and on. There was no space for me. There was no space for us. We were made invisible. Over time, our extreme lack of authentic representation in media, along with the widespread acceptance of anti-Asian racism in America, had a severe impact on the way I saw myself. The way white people viewed me heavily shaped how I viewed myself, and gradually I learned to internalize racist beliefs and thoughts against myself and my community. I learned to hate the Asian parts of me. I distanced myself as far as I possibly could from my Korean and Asian identities. I erased the Korean and Asian parts of me. I tried to act more white, look more white, talk more white, be more white. It's like the saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. Over the last 2 years, throughout the pandemic, I have watched countless Asian Americans get brutalized in the streets, have their businesses and homes vandalized, and have hate speech hurled at them. I myself have experienced multiple incidents of anti-Asian racism this year. In the early hours of March 17th, 2021, when I learned that the night before, 6 Asian women had been targeted and murdered by a white man in a shooting spree at several spas in Atlanta, Georgia, something broke inside me. I hated hearing these news anchors and reporters mangle these women's beautiful names. I hated hearing the sheriff's captain validate the murderer's egregious actions by claiming that he had a bad day and he had a sex addiction. I hated seeing these women being cast in such a negative light just because of the place they worked. Even in death, these women could not be respected. For an entire year, I watched thousands of Asian Americans get slain day after day while the news barely reported on any of it. For an entire year, I noticed that the only people that seemed to be concerned or enraged about Asian lives and Asian bodies were people within the Asian American community. For an entire year, I was reminded of my childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, and all the racism and discrimination that I had endured, and all the racism and discrimination I had watched my family endure. For an entire year, I was reminded of all the times that I swallowed my rage because no one would stand up for us, no one would speak up for us, and no one would protect us. When the Atlanta spa shootings happened, it was the end for me. It was the end of staying silent when people blatantly disrespected my community. It was the end of hiding my Korean and Asian identities. It was the end of code switching. It was the end of worshiping whiteness. It was the end of centering white voices. It was the end of being embarrassed or ashamed of who I am. The Atlanta spa shooting was also the beginning for me. It was the beginning of reclaiming my Korean and Asian identities. It was the beginning of using my voice to protect my community. It was the beginning of being proudly, unapologetically Korean and Asian. It was the beginning of reclaiming who I am and who I have always been. It was the beginning of finally learning how to center myself in my own life. Reclaiming my name is an act of resistance. It's my way of claiming who I am and where I come from. To reclaim my name is to reclaim myself. Through the reclamation of my name, I hope to shift the perception of what a normal American name actually is. I hope to give other Asian Americans and people of color the space to resist assimilation, cultural erasure, and self-erasure, and hold firmly to their cultural roots. I hope to give other immigrants and immigrant kids the space to be proud of their names and the rich cultures that they come from. And I hope to inspire others to stay true to who they are and not contort themselves for the sake of others. I want to reclaim Jieun because she is me and I am her. I want to be one person in all spaces, not one person constantly code switching between two worlds, two cultures, and two identities. I want to reclaim Jieun because I want to proudly be who I am and who I've always been. I don't want any part of me to be altered or erased for the sake of making other people who are unfamiliar with Asian names feel more comfortable. I deserve to be comfortable in this one life, in this one body I've been given. In the words of Thandue Newton in the reclamation of her name earlier this year, I am taking back what's mine. The truth is, our names are and have always been beautiful. We are and have always been beautiful. To my parents, I am Jieun. To my family, I am Jieun. To my aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents, I am Jieun. To any Korean I have ever met and any Korean I will ever meet, I am Jieun. I am and I have always been and I will always be Jieun to them and to me. Jieun is a beautiful name. It is my name and it feels like home. Thank you for joining me in this monumental journey, friends. Please feel free to reach out with your encouragement, support, and love. Bye.